Hey everybody, welcome. We're going to get started here in just a minute. If you don't mind, please drop where you're joining from in chat. We'd love to know, and feel free to get in line and drop any questions you have in chat, and we're happy to dig into those when we go live here in just a second.
Group because we have deep technical knowledge and we have a lot of broad business knowledge, and our approach is to try to bring those things together.
There's like the HR talent experience team, and then there's the IT team, and they're always butting heads like this. Prime for siloed people, cliques, and people talking around each other, and there being rumors, so it doesn't feel like a cohesive team a lot of the time.
The team that's focused solely on traditional IT is not positioned well to help with how technology could be more strategically used in the business, right? They care about desktop support and making sure that the network is secure.
Giving them a tool doesn't make someone successful. Being able to use that tool to solve a business problem is what makes them successful.
Where we tend to focus is kind of that layer above, where we try to take all of those technology and those tools that you have as an organization and help you leverage them at that business user level, so that you're effectively accomplishing your mission in the most efficient way possible.
Because you want every employee, from a person who's managing an office all the way to somebody out in the field or even executive level, you want all of them to be working together.
How do we optimize them? How do we bring them into a technology world where it can do things for us instead of relying on a manual process?
What I care about is that you have the right tool for the job. And so to that end, we're gonna evaluate that and tell you, no, don't do it with that tool. If you're able to use technology more effectively, the people that are supposed to be focused on the mission of the organization can actually do more missional things because the tech is handling the rest.
Having a successful outcome of the project, there's no question that we're gonna do everything we can to make that happen. We set ourselves up as an organization that is our focus, that's our guiding light. And so it pervades everything we do. All digital helps organizations transform their business using technology.
We help businesses use technology better so that their people work better together.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's office hours. This is a time where we come together every month, first Wednesday of every month, usually at 2 o'clock, right? To help you get past your modern workplace issues, help you with specific technical issues or strategic questions if you have them, so that you can be successful in getting your things done, and then you can pass that on to others and make them successful as well. So, welcome, Matt. I think it's been a little while since you and I have been on this.
It's been a very long time.
Usually we got the OG team back here.
Yeah, we usually like to mix it up. It's kind of nice, but this is also kind of nice. We can talk some like old school stuff if you want to.
Yeah. It's been a while since it's been just us two. So we have a bunch of questions, as Mitch mentioned earlier. Mitch is behind the camera today. He mentioned that if you have any questions, reach out in chat. Either on YouTube or in Teams. Of course, if you're in Teams, we can take you off mute and you can chat with us. We do have some questions that we're kind of sending ahead of time that we're going to try to get to kind of intersperse a little bit. So if you do have a question, please post it, and we'll, even if we don't get to it right this second, we'll kind of get through it, off and on throughout the time.
Cool. So you want to roll right into the first one?
Yeah, we might as well. Yeah.
All right. We're gonna
let's say hello. Let's say hello to people quick. We got California here. We got Chicago, just a short hop over the lake. I don't know if you know, but we're in the Grand Rapids area, so we
not far away.
Yeah, Morton's Steakhouse, downtown Chicago. Big fan. What else? We got South Dakota. It's awesome to have you all here. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, it's always cool to see where people are from and the type of geographic reach that we have. We've had a number of people reach out to us who have actually been from other countries now, including France and Angola,
the UK.
Very interesting ones, interesting conversations,
Ireland,
to say the least. Yeah, it's kind of fun. All right. Well, let's roll right into our first question. This was submitted earlier in July, so last month. And the question is from Margaretha, and the question is, when using Microsoft Teams for multiple projects with different stakeholders per project, how do you assign stakeholders to a specific project, and how do you manage who accesses what? This is kind of an interesting question. We have some actual real-world experience with some of our customers.
Yeah, so, I mean, it really, there's a lot of loaded words there. Stakeholder can mean a lot of different things. I'm going to assume that it means someone who wants visibility into what's going on a particular project or on a particular team, but doesn't necessarily want to be getting notifications and be involved day to day. They also mentioned
assigning stakeholders to a specific project. How do you manage who accesses what?
The access.
Yep.
Yeah, they mentioned access, which is kind of a little bit of a loaded question related to, if you're talking about a team, you really just have members and owners. Anything else is super custom, and generally speaking, we want to avoid that wherever possible. So in that case, you really have a couple different options. One is add them as a member of the team, and assuming you're using Planner or something like that to communicate status. They just need to hide things or like manage their notifications on that team effectively so they don't get bothered by things. But then they would get access to the plan, which might have the status information or maybe some posts that are in a dedicated channel. So that's an easy way to do it. There's a little bit of effort on the stakeholders end to be able to manage that and use that effectively. But it's pretty simple and it's pretty flexible. The other option that I would recommend would be to not give them access to the team at all and manage that reporting out to the stakeholder. Manually isn't the right term, but like on a timely basis, right? So provide weekly, monthly, whatever that might be, information out to the stakeholder on a regular basis and leverage the tools you have to make it easy to generate that information. So that in that option, you're in a little bit more control about that messaging. You're in a little bit more, it's a little bit more work to create those things. You need to make sure they're timely. It also means that the stakeholder doesn't have direct access all the time to see exactly what's going on. But again, they aren't going to get all the noise. They aren't going to have to understand how you're doing management of those tasks and management of those priorities. Those would probably be the two primary ways. The other thing I would say is that there are other tools that Microsoft provides and third parties provide that also provide a little bit more automated way to do that. When you think about Planner Premium or Project for the Web, aka Project for the Web, it has a lot of data that's in Dataverse that you can just automatically do reporting and automatically look at status across all projects or across a particular area. So there's also some other tools that you could use, but thinking about Teams in particular, thinking about the tools in the out-of-the-box or standard tool set, those would kind of be two approaches that I would consider.
I think the thing I'd layer on top of that is in either of those approaches, or you may adopt a combination of both, you'll need to define what that policy is or the procedures for managing projects using those tools at your organization. So either at the organization level or at maybe the agency or department or project management team level, you should define what those standards are and how that happens, like what teams get created when, or if you're using private channels, for example. Get all of that sorted out the way that you want to do it, and then implement it and put some governance around it so that it happens the same way. And the stakeholders who are on the receiving end of the reporting of all of that will be much happier for it.
Yep. Cool.
Hey Matt, real quick thought. I do have those slides that you used in a recent workshop, this is sort of related, and you can include it later if you want, is how to structure teams and channels according to topics versus philosophies, if we want to talk about that at some point.
Yeah. Let's get through a few more questions, but that might be a good topic if we run out of questions, for sure.
All right, the next question's kind of related, so maybe it will.
Well, I think we've got one more that's earlier. There's one from July 3rd I think you're missing. It came in from LinkedIn. It says, my team uses a shared inbox to manage high volume of unformatted questions. We're exploring ways to streamline this process, possibly using Microsoft Forms or Power Apps. Can you provide tips on how Microsoft 365 tools can help us organize and manage these inquiries more efficiently?
Yeah, so there's probably a couple different things that you could do here, maybe a few different things. You could use Microsoft Forms, and you can post a form out there that can be accessed anonymously. So if you're just taking anonymous input from the outside world and then you're dealing with it, you can do that. There are limitations to that approach, such as the inability to allow the end user to include or attach a file. And so, it depends on what all of your requirements are in that regard. But Microsoft Forms would be one way. And then on the back end of that, you could use Power Automate or something to basically monitor the input from that form and then do something, take action on that. Another method you might use would be a SharePoint form. And so I think there's even a new variation on SharePoint forms that's not the Canvas app custom list form approach. And if your SharePoint site allows external access, you could potentially expose that form for external access and collect things that way. And then again, on the back end of that, attach Power Automate to that list and take action on those items when they're submitted. That would be another way. And then if you're doing like really serious work and you need to track these things through a bigger process and you'd like it to be a little bit more structured and manageable, I might recommend using Dataverse as the back end, and then consider building model-driven apps for the back office folks who are processing those requests, those form requests, and then using Power Pages site or app to expose a form or that input form externally, either to anonymous or authenticated users.
Yeah, everybody's telling me on our team that apparently we answered that last time on office hours, which I was on, but I don't remember it. So you just got extra
I'm gonna have to go watch the last one back and see if we correlated our responses.
Yeah, apparently I went too far back. Sorry about that.
All right, next question.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got it for you. All right, so this is from Aaron. He says he has an accounting firm with one master SharePoint site that they use for document storage. We have a bunch of clients that are subfolders, so a traditional folder structure. How would you recommend moving this to a more team-centric model? His concern is that making a team per client or channel per client might make way too much to manage inside of Teams for his team, who might be touching 50 plus clients.
Yeah, that's a big challenge. I have a lot of questions, but I have some answers for you as well. When you say 50 clients, I go, there is no way that somebody's touching 50 clients every day or every other day or every week. That's my gut feeling on it. I could be wrong. You could say, no, there's an automated thing that does something.
It's an accounting firm, so think tax time. Could
even in a one day.
Could be busy.
Well, I guess if you're really busy, maybe, yeah, because it's all compressed. Okay, yeah, that's definitely a challenge. If you have to mess with 50 different areas all at once, I think that could be a big challenge.
Let's say inside of a week time frame, right? That would be a lot of stuff in a tight window.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
You really need to think about these two things a little bit separately. Is what would be my other statement, is that really your file structure doesn't have to match your team structure necessarily. The question is, do you want to be able to have conversations about those customers on an ongoing basis throughout the year? And if the answer is yes, then you should create teams and you should create channels, right? That creates a space where you can have conversations that are not email on those topics with your team, right? And everybody can be kept up to date, right? At the same time, if you say, well, but I don't want to have my files structured in those teams, that is okay. That's a more advanced, that you're making a choice that you're gonna do that, and that can be, there's gonna be some ramifications of that. But you can say, but I'm gonna keep my files in this file structure that we're managing separately, right? And in doing so, you allow this world where I can sync one document library and have all those files, but then I can also have a conversation in chat or in channel posts about what's going on for each of those customers separately. 50 teams seems excessive. Like, I am a member of a lot of teams, and 50 is a lot. Being a member of and having 50 channels is also, I think, an excessive amount for one person to try to manage 50 channels that I might want to be involved in. But I would say if everybody in the organization is going to be or want to be involved in all 50 conversations and be able to see all of those on a regular basis, there's not really much other way you can do it, right? I would ask the question like, how does that work today in email, right? For example, right? If you're sending emails back and forth, is everybody really, for those 50 customers, emailing everybody in the organization so they all see it? Probably not, right? Because another thing that you can think about would be, if you're saying, oh, they need access to 50, it's because, well, they need to be backup for somebody. They need to be able to do this if they need it. That's actually a different usage scenario. Maybe they only need 5 teams or 10 teams that they're really going to be a member of. And all of the other ones, they just have the option of being able to be added to if they need it, or maybe they stay hidden, right? They hide the team, hide the channel, and they can get to it separately. I think all of those are interesting questions, but a lot of it has to do with how that actually works.
Yeah, so I think picking a standard and adopting that standard. So I might approach this and simply say, we've got a client or a customer team, and then we're going to have a channel for every customer that we have. And then I would have let people either hide or pin channels based on what they're working on this week, and teach them how to do that. Teach them how to hide them, teach them how to pin them, teach them how to set notifications properly. And then in that scenario, you've got all of your customer files in a single SharePoint site, broken down by folder structure that's automatically created for you based on the channels. And so you can have contextual conversations pertaining to those documents and those customers within their own channel and access the document. Like, that's a very logical way to do it.
The thing to think about there with the channels is that there is a maximum number of channels that you can have in a team, and so like if you have 50 today, but you get new ones, and there's another 50 different ones next year.
Off the top of your head, what's the maximum? Do you know?
I think it's 200 or something, 150, 200. So I think that's what it is.
Okay.
So like there is limits there. So there's a lot more that would need to go into designing or thinking about that. But the bigger question is, are all these people really having conversations about all of those? Are they really all, dealing with those all at the same time? Do you really need them all to have access to all those files all the time? Questions like that, I think, are really some things you need to answer.
You're correct. It's 200.
200,
Yep.
Yeah. So Tanya mentioned something that's interesting as well, which is like organized by task rather than company. And that's an important thing too. There's a focus that in that question, or a perspective in that question that's going, well, we organize our files by customer. You could also say, I have a team that's focused on, tax advisory, let's say. This is an accounting company, so tax advisory, right? That might be a separate team focused with people who have conversations about tax advisory, and they might talk about each one of them separately at different times. But there's a lot of different ways that you can approach this, and it doesn't always have to be just based on customer, as an example. Yep.
Cool. Should we move on to the next question?
Let's look on the next question.
All right. So this one is from Tanya, and her question is simply, how do you suggest handling leave approval or calendars in Microsoft 365, not other tools?
Yeah. So the approval thing makes it difficult. In Microsoft 365, there's not an out-of-the-box thing. You're going to need to build, if you want it to be standard across a larger organization, you're going to need to build something that would manage it. If you have licensing, Dataverse is a great way to go. If you don't have licensing, a SharePoint site or a SharePoint list is probably your best bet. Visualizing that, the big problem that everybody comes into is visualizing that on a calendar is difficult. I think our approach to that would largely be to basically either create a calendar that is shared that people can go and watch and look at, or put it into an events list within SharePoint. There's a couple different ways you can go about it, but out of the box SharePoint or out of the box Microsoft 365, there's not really a out of the box tool that's going to give you everything you want, especially related to approvals in particular.
As well, like it's one thing for us to all look at a shared calendar and see when people have off, or have it available so that we can talk about it in a stand-up or something like that. It's a whole nother thing to use that same data for like resource leveling and project management.
She just clarified that a shared calendar that's in Outlook, so they can overlay, ignore, etc. So a calendar, a Teams calendar, so a channel calendar, can be an option. The problem with a channel calendar is you can't easily just add it to Outlook and just overlay it all the time. You can do some of it, like you can add some of it, but I don't believe right now that there's a real easy way to go add that and overlay it. But the channel calendar has been the easiest way to share that information just within a team, because you can open that up and take a look at it. There's also a group calendar, so that's a feature that may or may not be available to you. It's actually what we do here at Bulb, is we have a organization-wide team, but that team is email enabled, primarily because it was created so long ago that back in the day when Microsoft was creating them as quote-unquote email enabled from the beginning. And being email enabled means that it has a separate calendar that's not in the channel calendar, and I can take that calendar and easily add it to and overlay it on my calendar in Outlook. So if you can check with your IT administrators and you can email enable it, and I would recommend that you go look at what that means, because it does mean some different things. People can actually email that list, and they can find it, and it has other ramifications.
It has a license assigned to it.
It doesn't have a license, no, but the big thing is that it actually it'll show up in your email box as a group. And so what really confuses people is, number one, I have a team, but it's really a group as well. And then they also get confused because it's a separate mailbox, so people can mail it. But then if you're not checking it or you're not subscribed to it, you won't know that something's coming into that mailbox. And then people can be frustrated. I emailed you and you didn't get anything because it's not a distribution list. It's not the same as some of these other tools. So if you do it, I would recommend looking at that. But that's what we do here is we have a email-enabled group, and that group has a calendar, and we use that calendor for all of our stuff.
So she says she already has a shared mailbox.
Yeah, shared mailbox is not a group. That is correct. A shared mailbox, so a group... So a team is a group or has a group, and a group has a SharePoint site and a security group and a mailbox and all of these other things. And a shared mailbox is purely a emails thing. It literally is just a additional mailbox that multiple people can have access to that's shared between people. That's what it is.
Yep. Cool. All right. I don't see any other questions. Are there questions from YouTube, Mitch?
Nope, I don't see any other questions. So if there's no other questions, if you want to share those
Hey,
slides,
one just popped in.
Oh, cool.
Aaron posted in YouTube, what are your thoughts and feelings around approvals in Teams for approval workflows? Before we venture down the path, what are the downsides you see to using it? That's a great question.
That's a great question. Approvals in Teams is a weighted word, a little bit. Approvals is a feature of Power Automate that allows you, and subsequently is a feature of Teams that allows you to do ad hoc approvals, but it also allows you to create approvals that are related to flows. The gut reaction is we love approvals. Like, they're great. We use them all the time for lots of different things. They're a great feature for workflows where you want to have somebody ask for approval. The implementation in Teams, in particular, is not very process-oriented. It's very ad hoc in nature. So if I go into the approvals app in Teams and I say, oh, I want somebody to approve this thing, it's like, it's not that much different than
who do you want to
a
approve
message.
it? Yeah, it's literally they can pick who they want to approve it. So if you have he says not process oriented.
Yeah.
So if you have a standard process like people approve leave of absence or vacation requests, you don't want people just submitting that request to their buddy that sits in the cube next to them. You need that to go through a more formal process. And so the thing that is lacking on the team side is the ability to define and manage or configure your process, your approval process, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, you can create templates, to be clear. Like you can create org-wide templates, but again, it's up to the end user to use the template and to make it what you want and like do what you want. There's nothing stopping somebody from making a brand new approval request, send it to somebody random, make it look like it's in like what they really should be approving. They click approve or they click deny, and like it's just not in the system, right? And so if you're really trying to automate something, like really instill a process, a real process around something, I would be looking to Power Apps. I would be looking to Power Automate. I would be looking to another method.
Start with a SharePoint list for vacation requests, for example. It doesn't. What that means is that the request originates in a certain spot, which means you can wrap a process around it and configure and define the standard for that process. The approval notifications and all of that stuff still will happen inside of Teams for the end users. Like they'll receive something in their activity feed saying you've got something to approve, and they can go execute that there. But when you originate it in a specific place, then it's much more difficult for somebody to hijack that and do something different or non-standard with it.
At the same time, if you're a 10-person organization and you just want to put some process around something and the default template kind of works for you and you just want to be able to do a little demo to tell people what to
rules.
do, like there's nothing wrong with that. Like there is nothing wrong with it. But if I'm looking at doing a true business process and automating that business process, I would still use approvals, but I wouldn't use what you may see in videos of like, oh, I'm in the approvals app, click new approval, assign it to somebody, choose your thing, or create a template and use this template. Like, I just don't think that we have not done that.
The other thing
for organizations.
One other thing that we've wrestled with, like two things I'll note. One is when you create approvals, The data itself lives in Dataverse in your default Power Platform environment. That's just where that stuff lives. Everybody gets that out of the box.
Yeah.
That's how that works. And then the other thing to be aware of is if you start an approval using a flow, like if you build a standard process to start and wait on an approval, flows die after 28 days.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're going to have a long-running approval where you might have to wait 6 months because there's a lengthy review process for something to get approved, then you have to implement a few extra things so that you can monitor that approval and act on a response appropriately.
Or
beyond 28
or
days.
there is a new feature, but it has licensing costs that allows you to go beyond that 28 days. But again, you would have to be licensed to do that. So yeah, the time limit is also a good gotcha. Aaron, hopefully that answered your question. Got any more? Otherwise, I think I can go through some of those slides that I would be probably interesting. It's relevant to some of the questions that we had. Okay. I use Teams for construction projects, which have multiple mini projects within the main build. I'm struggling with how to use Planner alongside project for maximum productivity and reporting capability. Yup. You will definitely struggle with that.
Yuck.
Yeah. So, assuming that you're looking to do mini projects within the main project and have them like related and maybe be able to report up and see that happen at a higher level, Planner just isn't your thing. Unfortunately, Planner is meant for individual teams, individual small projects. The moment you get into like this, the concept of and I'm tying in, I could be misrepresenting what you mean by this, but the concept of a mini project, it doesn't really have a good way to manage that very effectively. You can do things where you tag things appropriately. You can do things where you can filter it appropriately. Like you can make it work. Like there's no doubt that you can make it happen for that, but it's not really meant for that. What is meant for that would be, they're now calling it, I think, Teams Premium or Teams Plan 2 or not Teams, sorry, Planner Plan 2 or Planner Premium. This is basically what they used to call
Project for the
Web. That is a much more full-featured project management tool, which has a cost to it. The cost is for the people who are creating and managing the plan. There isn't a cost for people who are updating status. But by purchasing that plan or that additional license, you can create what are called premium plans. And in a premium plan, you can basically have not only have related tasks, but have groupings of tasks. So you can have a structure to your task structure. You can have separate projects that roll up into a roadmap, if you will, which is, hey, I've got this project and this project and this project and this project, and this is how they kind of all interlace or intertwine. It's not Project Online. It's not Project Desktop. Those tools have even more features, but it will give you much better reporting for what you're looking to do. Also, you have direct access to the data that's in I'm going to call it Project for the Web, but I think their name now is like Planner Premium or something. I mean, you say that, but the icon hasn't changed. It's still the project icon. But like, you get access to it because it's in Dataverse. You can do custom reporting. You can do custom columns. Like, it's just way more flexible and capable in that regard. So I would recommend to you, number one, you could think about using Project for the Web, Planner Premium, whatever you want to call it. If you want to stick with Planner, the thing that I would recommend you do would be, because of the reporting need that you have, if that's the primary thing, would be think about one plan and think about ways you can filter that plan based on tag or based on category, so that when you're working on a sub project, you can like filter that down into just the tasks that matter for that mini project. And not have to look at all of the other stuff and get confused.
Yeah, there's a lot of limitations in Planner, just like the number of tags you can use. Like there's all kinds of ways that you'll run into roadblocks or hurdles that you got to solve.
Yep. So hopefully that was from Callum. Hopefully that was helpful. If not, if there's another question, feel free to ask it. We'd be happy to answer. it looks like maybe we have another question coming in.
Maybe not.
Nope.
Bring up that slide deck, Mitch, and
Yeah.
we'll get to that
We'll
question
get to that
after
quick.
Matt walks.
Give a few minutes. While I'm going through it, please ask some more questions. Feel free. We're happy to respond and answer anything.
This first one is how to structure teams and channels.
Yeah,
according to
so
topic.
can you spotlight that or something so I can read what it says? Yeah. So this is just some general information that we kind of provide to some of our customers about organizing teams and channels. So, we talk a lot about topics. If we were to do a presentation, we have some other webinar stuff about topics. Topic is like the big thing to think about, and a team is a topic, and a channel is a subtopic. So we think about like, what do topics mean? What types of topics matter to you? And so the topics that work best or are the things you should be thinking about when you're creating teams and channels would be organization. Like, do you have a division? Do you have a agency? Do you have a department? Do you have a working group? Like, what does that structure look like? And does it make sense? Is there enough communication? Is there enough collaboration? Is there enough interaction that you want to create teams for those things, right? Or maybe they should just be channels, right? It depends on what the amount that you're looking to be, but that's one aspect. The other one is people that work together. So maybe they're not in the same organizational structure, but maybe they work together on a regular basis on a particular project or on a particular initiative or something else, right? Which is kind of the next one, which is project or initiative. If there is a project, if there is initiative, if there is a business process that has people working together, maybe you should create a team, maybe you should create a channel. And then common discussion. So this would be, maybe there's enough about IT challenges that are going on. Maybe there's enough about, there's other tools besides, the other thing I'll call out is there are other tools besides teams and channels that are appropriate for some of these things. So like the common discussions, usually I would direct people towards Viva Engage. But maybe Viva Engage isn't something you have a lot of training on. Maybe it's not something you want to deploy, right? In which case, a team or a channel for some similar things would be probably a good option. So what's the other one? It's the actual ones, right? Oh yeah, philosophies. Yeah. So this is what we want people to be thinking about when we're doing it. So like, create a team as wide as you possibly can. Most people, they go and they say, this is a team for the 4 people doing this thing, and so I'm going to create a team for these 4 people. What they should be doing is say, hey, how wide can I make this? Like, is it really a problem if everybody in this area has access to it? Is it a problem if everybody in even the bigger area has access to this? And a lot of times the answer is yes, right? Like, and a lot of times you do want to make it smaller, but you should be asking that question. Like, because it's the broader you can go, the more information people have access to, and the more easy it is for people to come in and provide value and be up to date and not have to, figure out what's going on. Create them as needed. A lot of people have a tendency to like, I'm going to create my whole structure and this is where we're going to start and this is what it is. We would say no. Create the bare minimum that you need. Start working with it. Get annoyed that something has too many messages in it and add a new one, right? People will go crazy creating a big structure, and then you'll get 2 messages posted in it, and it doesn't really matter. Create channels before teams. Microsoft even has promoted this in their change to the plus sign, which now includes channel as the primary thing, not teams, because they were getting too many people creating new teams all the time. Use shared and private channels as much as you can. Obviously there are limitations to shared and private channels, but use them rather than creating brand new teams where appropriate. And then only some people should create them. This is another thing is like, everybody thinks that it's really cool because they can create them, but if you get, somebody doesn't realize that one was already created, they create a new one, now you've got a duplicate one, now you get confusion about what's going on. You need to have some sort of control. Individually, we have a process to create them. You have to request it. Somebody has to approve it. You can't just go create them. There's a lot of organizations that put that in place. I don't understand why Microsoft didn't have that from the get-go. Like, it seems like it would have been a smart move. It's one of the biggest things that most medium to large organizations do is they lock that down and then only create it when somebody requests. But they didn't. They don't have a way to do that automatically. You have to kind of do it yourself, which is unfortunate.
I think a lot of the perceived, the perception that they were behind with that feature set stems from the fact that I think there was a big push during COVID to use the tool.
I mean,
Right?
I'll be real.
It wasn't all there.
I'll be real. The salespeople were getting paid based on how many people used it.
I mean, that's a thing too. But when all of it became like really, really widely used was part of the whole lockdown.
I mean,
COVID, everybody was at
it's
home.
the same thing. It's the same thing with citizen development. Like they're trying to empower.
Right.
Like there's an altruistic side of it, which is they're trying to empower people, and you should empower the people who are closest to the thing that's needed. And I agree, and I get that. But there's another side of it when you've had so many people talk about it, and so many people spend millions of dollars on alternate tools. The salespeople are getting paid because based on utilization, and if you allow everybody to use it, you'll get more people to use it. It's just the way it is. So that's truth. So
Yeah. Interesting.
cool.
So I'm gonna plug a couple of our recent products that we're starting to get off the ground because
Sure.
it's related to this whole communication collaboration thing, with or without Teams. So we've got one we're calling the Total Communication Reset. It's intended to like reset how you think about communication in your organization, and that's something that you can kind of do yourself. It's 20 days of like tune in to watch a video, and then there's
5 minutes.
5-minute videos, right? And then some active kind of like sessions where you can ask questions and things like that. We're getting a lot of good feedback on it, and we're super excited about it. So check that out.
And we were not sure how that would end up. Ultimately, we were concerned about whether or not people would find the value in it. Is it enough content? Is it detailed enough? But honestly, we've gotten pretty much no feedback that it's terrible or like there's a problem or there's anything going on. Everything's been really positive. People have been really happy with the outcomes, which has been great to see. It's been great to engage with people. You get a direct access to us a little bit in our space, a dedicated space for your cohort. So the way it works is you sign up. We have a new one starting August 22nd. 26th, I thought.
22nd or 26th, Mitch?
End of the month.
month.
End of this month. Mitch is trying to keep us on the rails. So there's a new cohort coming out, so that it starts on a particular day, and from that day till the end of it, you kind of have access to this space where you can ask questions, have conversations, and it's been really fun. It's been really great to engage with the people in the cohort. It's been great. Yeah.
And do you want to talk a little bit about the workshop that you've been working on?
Yeah, so we've been doing a workshop content that really talks about communication collaboration. It's called the Communication Collaboration Masterclass. And basically, it is all about taking a group of somewhere between 8 and 15 or 20 people within an organization and really kind of setting the stage for how they should think about communication and collaboration with their organization. We can tailor it, which is what most people seem to be choosing, which is really all about understanding the details of what's going on in your organization and making the content really individual and personal to your organization. You could also just kind of get the normal content, but it basically is 3 sessions, 2-hour sessions apiece that go over the content, and then at the end of it, we are available. So it's not just a workshop where we kind of come in and do the workshop and then we leave. For a month, basically, you have access to us and can ask questions, engage with us, and we do weekly meetings where we kind of are able to review any questions or any problems that you're having, right?
Yep. And I think the intention there is that as we work through those sessions, they're like highly focused. In the case of the tailored one, is focused on your problems, and then the expectation is that you're going to action some of the recommendations and some of the things that you've learned.
Yeah, there's homework.
Right, there's homework. You're going to come back for the next session, and so that you actually walk away with like a functional, better method of communication,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool.
Cool. Well, I don't see any more questions coming in. What's that? Oh, okay. We can't see it. There we go.
All right, Matthew says, "Hi guys, love the content. Do you guys have any suggestions on the best tool for employee performance reviews? I was thinking of using Microsoft lists, but coming across some limitations."
Yeah, so I would ask yourself what you're really trying to get out of it. What's the goal? If you're trying to put it into a process where there's something happens automatically. I think there's one approach that we could take. If you're looking to just manage the process, manage the, hey, you need to be asking these questions, you need to be doing these things. I think there's some other things you could be doing. We use Loop for ourselves. We have kind of a set of pages that we try to fill out and content that we're doing. We do one-on-ones and that kind of stuff, and it kind of helps us kind of stay in line in regards to what we're asking. Of course, we're a very small organization, and it's formal, but it's not super rigid or super formal in regards to a process. And so we don't necessarily have the same kind of maybe scenarios as, for example, stack rank the employees to look for high performers so that you can assess pay rate based on the performance or that kind of thing.
Let's go backwards a step and brainstorm this a little bit. I'm assuming if he's using Microsoft Lists to do peer reviews, he wants to capture peer reviews in a...
It doesn't say peer performance reviews, just to be clear.
Performance reviews.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume peer reviews, though. Right?
Okay.
I want to.
Okay, but that's not what he says. He says performance review. So my assumption is it's a manager assessing an employee, potentially using peer information, so having somebody do a peer review, which is more like a 360 or whatever.
Right.
But it's like that. What he's really, I believe, he's really asking for would be, as a manager, I need to get all of my managers to input this data that says, here's my performance information, and then try to look at it from a managerial perspective at how everybody's doing, where we should be doing work, etc.
So I'm trying to think of some of the limitations that he might be running into. The one that I was thinking of, and the reason that I thought peer, which you could apply it in the same scenario you're talking about, is I don't want everybody to see everything.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. Which the same thing happens with a performance review. So, for example, if I think about a larger organization, maybe have 4 different managers. One manager shouldn't see the other manager's group of people who are being managed. If that is the problem, if that is the challenge that you're experiencing, List isn't you can do it. We can give you advice about how to do it. But List is not the easy way to do it. The easy way to do it would be in Dataverse. So if I was going to build something custom, doing it in Dataverse gives you the ability to create complex security structures where you can apply ownership to a team, for example, or an organizational unit, and that organizational unit can do things like the manager in that organization unit now has access automatically, and when I change that, it's going to automatically apply those permissions appropriately. Yep. So, for example, if permissions is a problem for you, that would be something you could consider. If you still want to do it in Microsoft Lists, you can do it. The way that I would do it would be to create either folder structures within the list that allow you to apply permissions at a granular level, which may be unique to people to realize that you can put folders in a list. It's very uncommon. It creates some other challenges. It's not the ideal solution, but it's probably the easiest way to manage permissions on list items. The only other option is to do item level permissions, but obviously as you get more and more of those things, it will become a problem. The other challenge you might be running into is, well, what I really want to do is be able to have all of the historical information about performance reviews for a particular person. Sorry. I'm fiddly, apparently. I was bothering. Sorry if everyone heard tapping. It was me. I was fiddling with my mic while I was talking. So if your problem is related to, having a broader picture of a person, right? So how do I look at all of the performance reviews for a person, even if maybe they were in 2 different groups? I think that could be handled a little bit differently. Maybe that's a Power BI solution. Power BI could be used as a solution for viewing the information as well. But yeah. I don't have, Aaron's asking if there's an explanation about folders and lists. I don't have an explanation, but you can go into the settings of a list and enable folders, and it will work. I'm not going to say that it is Microsoft's intended purpose. If they were listening, they would probably cringe a little bit, but it works, and I use it. We've used it. It really provides you the ability to structure the content within a list to make it a little easier.
Now for new lists or even in SharePoint, for example, is that the folder's just turned off, right?
Yeah, it's turned off.
The folder option. So
Because it creates a bunch of complexity. Like when people think about a list, they don't think about folders. Like that's not a natural thing. But the truth is, behind the scenes of every document library is really a list, and like
yeah, they're all on the same thing. Yep.
Callum had another question. For instance, roofing contractor could have channels for flat pitched soffit. Yep. A single project can cover this, hitting dates, planning, but how then to see in planner? So could have channels for flat pitch.
So the roofing contractor has a number of channels for different types of projects, which are different types of roof.
Like in
cover this for.
Yeah, I don't understand, Callum. I don't think I quite understand where the challenge is. What might be helpful is I can probably show a little bit. Let me switch to an account.
I think they're saying, like, let's say we're talking about all these different jobs in these contexts of these types of jobs: flat, pitched, soffit, etc.
Yes.
So how do I integrate a specific job for one of those things into Planner?
Got it.
So let's say I have a soffit project. Yeah. What do I do?
Yeah. So let's assume, Planner's not a great way to do it depending on how many planners you have, but let's say you have one planner that's tracking all of your jobs. Presume a task in Planner per job, and then you could use tags to describe each task. So you could have tags representing flat, pitch, soffit, cowlings, all of those different things. Just called out as different tags. Each one will be represented with a different color and text, and so then you can tell them apart in that way. So that would be one way that you could do that. Another way that maybe makes sense is you could set up the board in a way so you can set up buckets or categories within Planner, and you could make those the different types of projects, so flat, pitch, soffit, etc. But I don't know if that necessarily makes sense. Usually people use buckets to delineate the status of a project or at what stage it's in. And so then things move across the board according to their, how complete they are or at what phase they're in, which I would probably recommend to stick with that. So tags might be the best thing within an individual task. So let's say you have a flat roof project. Within an individual task, you can have checklists that can be visible right on the task. So that you can check those things off. So, if, on a given roof project, I can imagine there's tear off, and then there's going to be underlayment, and then there's going to be, shinglet, like whatever those things are. Those could be individual items in a checklist on each task that somebody could then check off. One of the challenges you'll have with that is that reporting on those things is going to be difficult because that data doesn't exist anywhere in a structured way that you can actually pull in and do a whole lot of reporting with. So that's where you'll run into a problem if you're just using Planner.
I'm gonna show this which don't show my screen just yet. Not ready yet. Okay, so I just created a new team, and this team is called Building Project 1, and it has a status channel.
I can show it now.
Yeah, you can show it now. Yeah, it has a status channel. Okay, I might have another channel that's for roofing, right? This is just one approach. There's like lots of different ways that I could approach this, but I'm going to create a channel for the roofing, right? And maybe I'm going to create a channel for drywall or interior windows. We'll do windows, right? Writing back.
Yeah, he's simply saying that it sounds like Project for the Web might be needed for the reporting
correct.
side of
That
things.
That is correct.
Yep.
But so I have this here. If I create a plan, I can create a plan that would be related to. It's all related to this project, and so the big thing is that everybody can see it. So I have two options that I would recommend. One would be I can create a new plan. I'll choose basic, and I'll do. Building, I don't know, good enough, add to my pins. And in this case, I'm gonna do building project. So this is gonna create a regular plan, and I can add tasks, right? estimate, and whatever those might be, right? And I can add additional things. I can choose bucket priority labels, right? So I can go in and label this task. So either use the assign to or add a label that might be, if I'm going to modify the yellow, and it'll be roofing, right? So now if I assign roofing, this estimate is for roofing, right? And then I can filter based on the labels and say, oh, I want to just look at the roofing ones versus I want to look at something else, right? No label, and there's nothing there. So this would be one way to manage this, that you could then add buckets and, drag it between the two, add a, it's currently to do, maybe it's got something else, and you can kind of manage it this way. You can also go into the grid and manage the grid. You can also create, the tasks here, which might be a little easier to create the tasks here. This is the only way in Planner, the basic planner, that you can keep all of this information together so you can view it all together, right? The other option is I can create a new plan, another plan called building roofing, right? And now I have two different plans. Now I have two different plans, one for roofing and one for building, and I can have a separate task here, and these tasks will be specific to just this roofing project. They're both in the building project, so everybody in that team can see all of them, but if I want to see the roofing status separate from the building status, or I have to look at them separately. I can't look at them together, right? That's the big challenge, that's the big difficulty with it. But you can create as many of these plans as you want, right? You can create a plan for each of those sub-projects. You can create a task, even though I don't have it shown here, or I can't see all of the details, but I could see roofing as a task, right? Instead of being multiple tasks, right? And maybe it's got estimation and underlayment and all of that. That could be the tasks within the roofing project, but here you could roll that up into a specific thing. That roll up has to happen manually, so I have to put that here. I can't show you with this because I don't have the premium license on this, but if I created with Project for the Web, I could do that kind of all together because I can create, like here, when I look at this task is just here. There's no subtasks. In Project for the Web, you can actually create subtasks, you can create sub-projects, you can do all sorts of more advanced things. But again, there's a cost. Do you think that has to be per channel or general? I'm not sure what that means. The projects, the plans, the plans are not per channel. They get assigned to the project, to the team itself. And so I could create a Windows, you can make as many as you want. They're completely, they're not completely. They're related, but there's no direct link between a channel and a plan. A plan is related to the organization. And so, yes, effectively, they're all within the general channel. In my case, I don't even have a general channel because I have the newer update, where Microsoft is getting rid of the general channel effectively, and you're getting new, you have to name it. So I have a status channel. But yes, there's no requirement. It's all under one thing, which is part of the team. It's not under a specific channel. Cool.
Well, we're about at time. We've got 2 minutes left.
There was a question about onboarding I saw.
No, that was the biggest challenge that Tanya's facing lately is onboarding.
Yeah, so Tanya, is that you onboarding to your new organization or you trying to onboard other people? I'm interested to know. Because we know that you're in a new place now.
Both, actually. Yeah.
Got it, okay.
I think she's got an HR role where she's at the new company, and so she's trying to solve all the problems and struggling with the deficiencies of the organization that she walked into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Ask questions. We can see what we can do. But honestly, a lot of that is going to be something you're going to have to do yourself. So.
All right, just one more plug in the last minute.
Sure. We're going to plug now.
The Workplace.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a community out there that you can join. It's a subscription service where you can basically join with us and others who are solving modern workplace problems. post your questions in there about any technical hurdles you're facing or strategic questions or just the stuff that you're working on recently. The goal there is that we can all benefit from each other's experience and solving problems together. Definitely would encourage you to check that out. There's other opportunities for learning there as well, including hot seat sessions, as well as a little bit of private coaching and those types of things. And so we're looking to kind of develop that further and get more people involved in that. And we're starting to get a little bit of traction, so it's kind of exciting.
Yeah. Cool.
When will we see you again?
Next month. We'll be doing another one of these next month.
So what is the first
actual
Wednesday of
date
next month is going to be the 4th of
That'll
September.
be the 4th of September.
At 2 o'clock.
All right. So we'll see everyone. Head to bulb.digital/office-hours to get registered for the next one. We'll see you there.
Awesome.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks, everybody.